But I'm not that anymore, and that's not what I am anymore. Not that I've mastered it or that I've got a method that's great that I want to tell you about this method, and it's that I am no longer it. It is no longer me, and I am someplace else now. When you get that, when you understand that notion of being and beginning to apply that in your life, I mean, it's just phenomenal. But it's like in religion. People are looking for the 10 Commandments. Okay. But in the Bible, it says live of the truth, doesn't it? The whole idea of the kingdom of heaven, I mean, that's one of the great secrets of the universe that is so simple. I mean, the kingdom of heaven isn't this place that you're going to get to. It is within. It is what you carry around with you. And when you are the 10 Commandments, you don't need them. You don't need any of that. You simply are being that. And when that is you and you are it, you are what they call, what Christ called, of the truth. All right, not looking for it, not trying to get it from someone else, not hoping that someone else can reveal it to you. It is what you are. When you are looking for love, it will always elude you. When you're looking for happiness, it will always elude you. When you become those things, it's just there and it begins to own you. You don't have it. It has you. It has a hold of you. So the first benefit that I can think of in approaching life from this loving, giving love away and having it for yourself, filling yourself up with it, is that you will see dramatic changes in the negative kinds of lifestyle things that you have accepted as a way of life for you. Smoking becomes something that's almost too easy to give up. It's almost too easy. You don't tell yourself it's difficult. You don't tell yourself that I'm going to go through a lot of pain and that it's going to be a troublesome thing for me and I'm going to go through withdrawal. You simply become a person who no longer wants to poison himself or herself. And looking at cigarettes as something that you're pouring inside of you, this self that you feel so good about, is just impossible after a while. It owns you. This health approach, this wellness approach, begins to own you. Is it partly because you see yourself as being more valuable now? I don't think it's because you're more valuable. I think it's because it conflicts with who you are now. See, I'm not saying that where you are now is bad. I don't want anybody just to look at themselves saying, these are all my bad habits, and I want to eliminate them. That's the least effective way to change anything about yourself, all right? Because you have to quit, and you have to stop, and you have to lose, if it's weight or whatever, those are all very negative words. Now, when you visualize yourself the way you want to be, and you treat yourself according to that image that you have for yourself, then the rest of it is just natural. It is just the way to go. What you have to do is understand that high-functioning people look at where they are and say, that's fine, it's terrific, like where I am is just perfect. I am one of God's perfect creatures on this planet, a perfect creation, but I can grow, and that's not inconsistent at all. It's very much like looking at the sky and saying, what's the sky today? Is it perfect? You say, what's the only sky we have? It's blue, it's got a few clouds in it, it's here, it's perfect. You look at it an hour later and it's quite different, still perfect. Things can change and the perfection doesn't have to change. All right, that may be what perfection is, in fact. As human beings, to recognize ourselves as always changing, I began to look at this concept called mastery, where you become to your own life like a great painter becomes to his creation or her creation, shading it, shaping it, coloring it, putting it in exact tones that you want it to be. So you are creating your own life. Like, I believe that all human beings are geniuses and have mastery or self-actualization, whatever you want to call it, available to them if they want to make the choices that go with it. Goal setting is something that a lot of confusion about. There's nothing wrong with having a goal as long as you don't fall in love with it. And as long as you understand that every step on the way to the achievement of the goal is just as important as every other step, including the one where in your region that we only get nows. We only get present moments to live. And that to want to be something 5 years from now assumes that you're going to be here then in this body in the way that you are living now. And that's a very blatant assumption, that if you always have that 5-year notion, there will come a time when you won't be able to achieve that. Because the future is promised to no one, and the past is like a canceled check. I mean, it's just gone, right? So that all we have are moments to live. One of the things that's important to learn how to do is to act as if what you want is already there. To act that way, not to act as if maybe if I set all these goals and work real hard at them, You see, when I said that success is an inner concept, so is happiness, so is love, so is approval. If you think that you're going to find fulfillment if you set a goal out there and then you work real hard for that goal, and when you get there, you'll finally have it. Your life is all this striving. What you need is a psychology of arriving, not striving. You know, you're thinking about what I'm going to do and I'm going to get here. Meantime, every one of these days are your life. This is all you get. So the goals, while there's nothing wrong with goals at all, it's like every step along the way is just as important to savor as arriving here. And if you're only goal-oriented and only striving, you're only about halfway up the ladder of no-limit people. You are always going to suffer from the disease of more if you only have goals to arrive at in the future, because this becomes your life, the striving. And when you get here, you don't know what to do with this. You don't know how to handle what you've got. And so then you upgrade your goal and you say, all right, I'll have 200,000 in the bank instead of 100. And now your life becomes more struggling, more suffering, more trying to get there. And you get here. And then you all of a sudden you look around and you're an old person and you say, what happened to my life? Not becoming. There's nothing in the world wrong with pursuing anything as long as you stay consistent with the truth. The truth is the most important thing you can have in your life. If you become a person, if you want anything to work on in your life, work on this. Everything that comes out of your mouth, every word that comes out of your mouth is exactly as it is and exactly as you are. That's a wonderful place to try to get to. All right, now that can be construed as a goal, all right, in the goal-setting sense. But each time that you slip doesn't mean you're less than valuable, that you're unimportant. It doesn't mean that at all. It simply means that you have something to learn from slipping. And so, in this moment, appreciate what you have to learn from slipping, rather than saying, I shouldn't have, and I failed, and that makes me bad, and now I'm deficient, and so on. You see, the more you operate from goal setting in the sense of repairing deficiencies, the more your life becomes one of striving. Your life becomes a striving. And when you're going to be, and when you arrive at the place where you want to be, you don't know how to be there because your whole life has been striving. If it's a week from Thursday, you're looking toward whatever it is, that party or the bank account that you're going to now have the amount of money that you wanted in it. And you finally get there after all the struggling. And then Thursday arrives, you don't know how to deal with that because your whole life has been in anticipation of, and so when you get there, you suffer from this disease called more. And I've got to get more of that. There's a lot of people out there, including many of you, who while you're having your first cup of coffee are thinking about the second cup, or while you're having your appetizer are wondering if you're going to be able to get a dessert. And all of this stuff called appetizer and your main course and all of that is something you just sort of forget about. Don't experience in anticipation of what it's going to be in the next moment and the next moment. Now, the highest form of sanity that's out there and available for all of us is this present moment, the now, and making a peak experience. Being able to make a peak experience out of a present moment, out of any present moment. Now, I read a book called The Idiot one time by Fyodor Dostoevsky. All right, Dostoevsky lived in the 1860s in Russia under the Tsar. Now, here's what happened to Dostoevsky. It's a true story. He was accused of being in alliance with a literary group of people in the Soviet Union in Moscow who were attempting to overthrow the Tsar by talking about subversive ideas like freedom and people have a right to think for themselves and make choices and all the kinds of things that I've written about, for which I would have been executed many times over in most countries of the world. But Dostoevsky was a member of a small group. The Tsar said that he was a member. This was long before he was well known. This was when he was a young man and he was sentenced to die, and he was put into a cell in Moscow. And in that cell, he knew that he was going to be dying, and he had been told the date. He was going to be shot by firing squad. And so they took 5 of them out, and they lined them up, and they put them in a stake